love's in need of love today. Don't delay. Send yours in right away. Switching up a little bit just for the times we are in. I have a lot to talk about. I got a lot to unpack today. And so make sure you have everybody in that needs to be in, because we have a great, let me text that, a great deal to talk about. A great deal. So let somebody know we are live on the air. I'm going to start off this show because I got so much to unpack to talk about with my brother who is here to talk about. Sometimes they say dad. His wife says, I always tell people this, his wife says dad. So sometimes it just depends on where we're at and how old I feel and how young they feel. Rob, you with us today. You had a wonderful event the other day. Tell the people about the event.
Oh, my God.
Pull that mic right to you.
It was a really, 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 really good event. I was nervous through most of the day, but the Buff City Awards was a huge success.
Yeah.
Just to see black excellence in the room during the troubled times that we're in, and we had a chance to kind of have some sense of normalcy through all of this.
Yeah.
You know, and just seeing everyone getting with each other, shaking hands, smiling, hugging each other. I mean, it was a great event.
Well, one of the things, and I'm glad that you did not cancel it, and I've said this in church, I'm going to say it publicly on the radio, because it broke my heart that I wasn't there. You chose, and folks who you've been working with me for one of the awards. It was during a very rough time, and as I told you a few minutes ago, we had a little scheduling conflict, but that did not, once I found out physically, I was just not capable of doing another thing that night. But I wanted, I think because it was so important to you and so important to so many people who you awarded that night. I keep saying to people, it's okay to smile. And I think that with all of the tears we have had, I don't think that one of the persons who this murderer killed, this white supremacist murderer, I have to always say all of those words. I don't think they would say to us, just mourn for the rest of your life. I believe that that their lives were taken, and we should be a better people because of it. Why didn't you cancel?
I fought with it for about a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to my wife, and I fought with it. And she said, we got to live.
Yeah.
She said, let's give the people a glimmer of hope through all this that we're going through. And at that point, I knew it was go time. I talked to Mo, I talked to Adri V, and I got the same advice from all of them.
Yeah. So. And I agree. And your wife, of course, is a healthcare professional. And not just about the physical body, but about our mental mind, And I think that did give people, especially Africans, that gave them the chance that night not to forget about what happened, but to also be able to say, now we have to continue moving, but we have to continue moving in a positive way in our own lives. And so I know I know you got something over there right now that I'm not going to accept here. Because I want it to happen on Sunday morning, because I really want the members of True Bethel to be able to celebrate that moment and to be able to celebrate you for celebrating others, because you are utilizing your platform to celebrate other people doing positive things in the community.
Yes, what I saw, Bishop, like when I started picking awardees, people said, how did you pick? I looked at the pandemic first.
Yeah.
And I looked and seen who was out here during the pandemic. I saw Pastor Kenny out here.
Yes.
I saw Bruce Warwick going corner to corner,
yes.
laying hands on people.
Yeah.
I saw Dennis Wilson doing things for the community. I just saw certain people out in the community, and they didn't stop.
So it was focused.
Yes.
And it was thanking people and letting them know how much you and the city of Buffalo, and I mean, I know there were so many other names, but I mean, the names that you called, I'm very familiar with, and very, I'm very proud, and I'll spend about 2 more minutes on this. Proud of Buffalo not looking for a single savior other than Jesus. Let me be clear, on this earth when we have problems, because a lot of times what happens, whether it's pandemic, whether it's massacre, the blame game starts and we forget those who are doing. So we'll say, well, Washington didn't do enough for the pandemic, or D.C., or whoever, or the state of New York. But what about the ones who were?
Exactly.
And I think that was why this event was so important to people. And so you pick those who during COVID were still out there doing. And Kenny,
Yes.
I mean, I can't say enough about all of them, all of your awardees, but because you picked them up, Kenny Simmons, Pastor, it just kept going, feeding and doing what he needed to do, and each of those persons that you awarded kept going.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that resiliency, right?
Including yourself.
Yeah, it was, and I'm thankful that you recognize me, but I'm humbled because I think that in these platforms, you don't need a title, you don't need an office, and so even those people, I kind of applaud more those people. They had to do it from the grassroots level with no staff, with nobody, and so I appreciate you, brother. Now, what you got coming up? Let's talk about that because I already know there's something else coming up.
Oh, Shea Day coming August 20th.
All right,
We're
what is
coming
that?
right back, the second annual DJ Shea Memorial 3-on-3 basketball tournament at McCarthy Park. We honoring my late god brother, the infamous DJ Shea. He's the starter of Griselda movement. He was very, very vocal in the Buffalo music scene.
Yeah.
He passed away of COVID a few years ago.
Yep.
This is our third year doing Shea Day. This is my second year taking over Shea Day. So yeah, we right back at McCarthy
So how do
Park.
people get involved if they want to get in?
If you're gonna get your team, man, I'm letting you guys know we're giving $7,500 away again this year to the winner.
Oh, who won last year?
Last year, Buffalo let a team from Syracuse come in and win money.
What?
Yes,
Big boys? Tall?
tall boys.
Yeah. How about how old?
They was about 23 to 28.
Because is there an age limit on the teams?
This year we're doing a high school division.
Okay.
Which those guys will get trophies and recognition because they can't give cash because they're in high school.
Okay.
And then we're doing an unlimited division this year.
Okay, so that's whoever, and they can get
Yes,
money.
They can get money.
But if they do unlimited, they have to be over 21 or
18 and up.
18
We
and up.
had
And
some kids last year, and they were 16, 17, and they played. And they
Okay.
played really good.
yeah.
They got to the semifinals at that age.
Yeah, $7,500.
Yes.
So you got to come back as we get closer to it. But I want to make sure we get it out there early enough so that the teams. Is there a website or anything they can go to, or what
you know
do they
what?
do?
You can go right to my social media. It's no fancy bells and whistles. It's just Rob Cornelius.
Yep.
All my flyers there. You can inbox me. You can get in touch with me right there on my social media.
That Facebook. They
That's
can get-
Facebook
So
and
now there's
IG.
going to be a million Rob Corneliuses that come up. Tell us how to know the difference and
You will see my RC Enterprise logo right there.
RC Enterprise logo. All right, Facebook and YouTube. You heard it here. I'm not going to say first because you might already had it out there, but one of the first you heard it right here. Go to that logo, rewind the tape, rewind the broadcast, and right there in front of you, and get that information and get you. How much is it for the teams to get in?
This year we're doing $250 a team.
All right, $250 a team.
It's 3-on-3, $250 a team. You can have 5 players. So if you
Okay.
divide 5 into $250, you guys can really have a nice come up if you win.
All right. So is there a charity or anything that the money is going to? It's going to the organization?
We actually give a scholarship fund.
Wow.
Yeah, we give a scholarship. We pick a kid every year. We give them a scholarship, just trying to help them get through, even if they're doing private school, college,
Yeah.
or if they even taking music lessons. We try to take care of that for them. 'Cause-
So it's got it because of the
Yes.
DJ.
Yes, because he was heavy in the arts. I got Shay a job to keep it short. I got him a job at School 66, North Park Academy. This is about 10 years ago where he did an after-school program, and he taught them how to DJ.
Yeah.
And that was his passion, was teaching people.
Yeah.
So we're trying to keep that going.
All right. It's coming up, folks. Don't miss it. Rob, thank you.
Hey, thank you. I love you guys.
See you Sunday.
See you Sunday.
All right. He'll be giving that award on Sunday. I'm not taking it here. All right. Let me get to some of the mail that we have received, and I'm going to ask a couple questions. Welcome to everybody who's on social media, on all of our platforms. I want to. There's going to be some questions I ask today that I'm going to need your opinion. Now, listen, if you write it before I get there, I may miss it. So wait till I get to that segment. Just think of your thoughts. But I want you to get ready for these questions. One, should gun laws be changed? I'm going to tell you about what's happening in New York State. And two, now you don't have to answer every question. Just pick one. When we talk about what's next in the area of tops. Three, and I probably could do a whole show on each one of these and maybe have to come back.
Absolutely.
Should tops be open or closed? I had a fourth one, but I'm going to leave that one alone. So when I get to that segment, start giving me those answers. Welcome, Bernadette Washington, Jackie Lipscomb, Sandra King, and the others who are on live. We've been getting so much mail here at the church. And donations for our food truck and pantry. As you know, well, maybe you don't know, you may be just tuning in. We have a food truck, like every other food truck that's out there that charges, we don't charge. Again, thank Cambridge Boyd and all of the teams who have been working, all of the churches. I don't have all of the lists, so I don't want to start mentioning them. So it has been a collaborative effort, True Bethel's Truck, True Bethel's Kitchen, with a lot of hands that come from a lot of other churches. And to me, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. You work together. Want to thank Chapel at Cross Points for their donation. And there's been many other, but I'm just going to read what I have in front of me. Pastor Eric Robinson, Saving Families Chaplain Partnership out of Miami, Florida. I want to thank the Watterson family who heard about our church and congregation in a news story, in a national news story, and sent a $40 to assist in our efforts of feeding. Condolences to the community, $100 from, I shouldn't read all these numbers, but Michael Converso from UAW, Marilyn Whitman, who I'm wondering if this is the Marilyn Whitman from the Board of Education, who used to work with the Board of Education. She wrote, and all of the folks that I am reading you, let's see if this is the Marilyn Whitman. Anyway, the folks I'm reading you are the positive and the encouragements and the please keep feeding and the please help, and we want to help. Patricia Diaz to the Vagos family, lived in Buffalo over 40 years, and they work. Their daughter works for Peace Worldwide. Silverstone family, Marilyn Collins, praying. Evergreen Christian Community Church, Robert Rich III, via Dreamcatcher Foundation. We've got so much. I don't know what happened in Pennsylvania. How we must have been on a lot in Harrisburg because we got a lot of stuff.
You did a lot of the Erie station too.
That's why then, because we got Harrisburg Heeding God's Call to End Gun Violence, Harrisburg chapter. Thank you for your service, Penny Warren out of Good Hope, Georgia. Prayer for continued wisdom, love you, DGP, and all you do. Market Square Presbyterian Church, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Reverend Kim Waddington. Yep, good enough. Hospice and Palliative Care, Buffalo, sending gratitude for you and for support and send prayers. Thank you for all you do, Gloria Jackson. And then this one all of them excite me too, because it brings people together. But this is a letter from First Lady Molly Jones of Grace Episcopal Church in Hook Mountain, Nyack Beach State Park.
Wow.
And she sent her husband's sermon and says, your voice is being heard. I'm going to read a portion of her husband's sermon. I mean, she sent the typewritten, I might preach a sermon, the typewritten sermon. And she says, here's the quote from his sermon. How many of you read the New York Times? Quite a few, I see, so hands must have went up. Most evidently, on page 3, each day of the Times prints the quote of the day. On Monday, May 16th, it printed this quote from Darius Pridgen, Bishop of the True Bethel Baptist Church in Buffalo. Quote, "Don't tell me you're a friend of our community and you don't address this today at your pulpit. If you do not stand behind those holy desks and acknowledge there are still people who hate black people, you can go to hell with the shooter for all I care." All right, Presbyterian Church. I didn't quote of the day in the New York Times. Wow. And I think you mentioned that to me. Cards from Metro West Jewish Day School out of Massachusetts. This is only a snapshot of them all.
Yes.
94-year-old May Pleskow, Jewish woman who grew up on the east side, had businesses, Pleskow Pharmacy, and her husband is Dr. Pleskow. Everybody back in the day knew who Dr. Pleskow. I'm just really blown away. 94 years old. And when I was growing up, everybody knew her husband. Condolences from South Wales, New York, Miss Polinsky. Thank you card from, that's for something different. A grant from Buffalo Together Response Community through United Way of Erie County. We thank you. Nope, not that one. Nope, not that one. Quite interesting. I got a letter from a inmate who says he's white and he's looking for a spiritual friend. So if any of you want to be a spiritual friend, I'm not good on, we write them back, but y'all know I don't have the time to write every day. So if you want to correspond, I'll give you his number or give you his information. Praying for Buffalo, Patton Mike Allen, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Sending best in all affected by this tragedy, Sue Sheridan. So they keep coming in. Of course, I'm not even going to be bothered with let me just say it like this. There are still hateful white supremacists out there, and I will not give them the time on this platform. And everybody, and this is what I always explain to people, such, get over it. I don't care what the issue is. There's always going to be something negative. Mm-hmm. And what you have to do is keep your concentration on the positive, on what you're working on. And thank God for the exposure of other people. I'd rather for you to say, I hate ninjas. I hate ninjas. I hate them. I hate SpongeBob's. I hate whatever. Then I know. And I'm good. What I don't rock with is I love ninjas, and then you don't give ninjas a job over. I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm trying to think of a word. Yeah. So you got it. You got what I'm saying? Okay. Because I'm not gonna drag that. Here's the point. Thank you to those who are writing from across the country. We have been telling people all of the funds that are out there. When on some of these interviews we talked about our food bus being out there, a food truck, 100% of what we have goes back out, what we have received. And trust me, it's not some huge amount, but we did not put that into True Bethel Baptist Church. We put it into True Bethel Charities to go back out on the streets to keep our food pantry going, to keep because we're grateful for all the food that's out on Jefferson. I just want you to know, like, we didn't start this at the massacre. We've been doing it 10, 15 years, and every week you can come by to get free food. So we know there's an expansion of need right now with Tops closed. So to bring everybody together has been beautiful.
And I have the list of the other churches.
Okay.
That was with the food truck. Friendship Baptist Church, New Direction, and Renovation Church.
And Renovation have been there. And there's others. There's got to be others because Shepherdess Boyd has been in the back almost every single day who have been helping. So, all right. So I got that. I also, real quick, did I talk about all these resolutions last week?
No.
Why didn't I? These were ready by Thursday, right? I just forgot. So
yeah, because we had all the guests and
the
funeral.
Right. Oh, the funeral. So I want you to know that I'm doing more than talking, but actually utilizing the power that many have given me by electing me, and the power, especially by God, to be on the platform of the church. So what I did this week is wrote a lot of resolutions, all of which I want to tell you, it was before the Common Council on Tuesday. Every one of them were unanimously supported by the Common Council. And several of them, or at least one, everybody signed on as a co-sponsor, and then others, different council members, signed on. So here is, when people say, what's next, or ain't nothing going to happen, not true, not true, not true, and not true, but I do understand the cynicism. So let's talk about this. So one piece of one resolution was the exploring the ability to address the reselling of donated goods intended to serve individuals in needs through legislation. Here's the skinny. We have had reports of people reselling items that they receive for free, in particular in deli stores. Now, I have asked our legal department to articulate, or to what we say opine, or give us a written opinion of whether that is illegal. Because I don't know if it is illegal, because all of what I keep seeing, if I give you my glasses right now and I give them to you, you can resell them. You can. I didn't tell you not to resell them. You didn't sign a contract not to resell them. You can resell them. Now, if I needed the glass, or if I was giving it away to the poor and to those in need, it would probably be like grimy for you to do it. Not probably, it would be grimy for you to redo it, for you to resell it. But the question that I asked is it illegal? And if it's not illegal, is it constitutional for us to write some type of city ordinance that would prevent that? Now, it would probably be something that would say that it needs to be stated that it can't be for resale, blah, 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 blah. But what I want to do and I think I said this, and I'm not sure if I mentioned this last week, a store can go to, and I'll use Wegmans, can go to Wegmans and buy Wegmans cereal, marked Wegmans. You know how the store brand, instead of Fruit Loops, they got Oot Loops. So you can go and get Wegmans, and I'm making this name up, Oot Loops, and you can buy the whole case, or you can buy up 20 boxes, and you can bring them back to your store and sell them. It's not illegal. It's not illegal. It's the market. It's the market. It's kind of Amazonish, for lack of a better term, that I can buy from wherever. I can go to BJ's and buy a cart full of water and resell in the store. It's not illegal. The question that I asked our council, corporation council, to opine on is it illegal of what is being alleged that people got from the giveaways and went and sold it, so that we're on solid ground? Because you can't enforce something that's not illegal. It may be immoral and it may be wrong, but it may not be enforceable. So I want to take it to the next level of saying, how do we create, or if we even can create legislation to make that illegal, or what we would have to do. So that's number one. So I am answering the call of the many who said, what are we going to do about it? It's not just enough to get excited about it and not have the teeth. I want you to remember, I am a legislator. I write laws. So the enforcement piece comes from the administration. So that's inspections. That's not from the council. However, if it is not illegal, they can't enforce it. Got it? Okay. The second thing that we did is wrote a resolution that was unanimously passed Tuesday to, first of all, I want to thank the county and all of the mental health agencies out there.
Absolutely.
Thank you. County executive and I stood on site at the scene, and right away he was picking up the phone and making the calls to get mental health professionals there. April Baskin, Johnson, all of them, Howard Johnson, picked up and right there at the site where you could walk down the street mental health professionals. And I think I talked about this last week. So we are asking them, if possible. And folks, I talked to one of President Biden's representatives for the last couple of days. The president's calling, what can we do? We don't want to just show up and leave. One of the things, and I put her in touch with legislator April Baskin, is to continue. We need money to continue those mental health services. We need money. We need money. And what I want to say, big ups to Chairwoman Baskin for this idea of having a permanent trauma center in our communities. Permanent. So when there is a shooting, when there's a homicide, when there's a fire, when a child has a death or an adult has a death in the family, that they can go to a permanent site. If we can have permanent liquor stores, we can have permanent trauma center. So we're asking them to keep that through the summer, because it's supposed to end, I think, today or next week. So we're begging to keep it through the summer, because a lot of people who never went to counseling went to counseling. The third thing that was unanimously approved that I sponsored was the calling for sensible gun control legislation. We're going to talk about that in a minute, and we're going to talk about, this goes to every member of Congress in the United States, to say to them, please work together. Please work together. We need your help for sensible gun legislation. And I made sure I put sensible. And I'm going to tell you why, folks. I am not against your constitutional right to bear arms.
Not at all.
I got to keep saying that. I am not against it. This is Darius, and obviously the council now. I want to see sensible laws so that people that we know have mental health issues and shouldn't carry, or people that we know shouldn't carry because they've threatened other people and all that kind of stuff, that they shouldn't be carrying. Now, the jury is out on the age, not for me, but for others, because they say, well, we put you in the military at 18 and hand you a weapon, but we don't think you should have a weapon out here in the street. I don't think anybody, to be very honest, needs a semi-automatic. The ARs. They don't, for what? So we did that. I ain't done yet, folks. I'm not done. Also been in meeting after meeting, and some are still coming up. So a lot of the people who visited Buffalo have not let it go when the cameras left. So you may not see it on TV, because some meetings you got to meet and you got to talk, you got to think, you got to see where the funding is. I just want to assure you that the conversations have not stopped. And I believe Spectrum, and I don't have all the information. Do we have the information from Spectrum? They'll be here at the church?
Yeah.
What day?
Right now it's looking like next Saturday.
Okay.
But at the 1 o'clock meeting is to confirm.
Okay, so
Yep.
They will put it out there, but there's going to be a community conversation held right here at True Bethel. So you got all of these people moving in positive direction. So let me see if you haven't heard, 2 young church members gunned down in Ames, Iowa. A man shot and killed 2 people and then himself last night, in a parking lot outside a church in Ames. Shooting happened just before 7 p.m. at Cornerstone Church, a mega church about 30 miles north of Des Moines. A church official described the victims as 2 female young members of the church. Ages of the victim weren't known. I'm trying to see what kind of weapon, whatever weapon he had, he ends up, I don't think, they probably have released it by now, but this was something I got about an hour ago off of the press. And so mass shootings still happening. 2 doctors, a wife and a mother, a Vietnam veteran. What we know about the Tulsa shootings, a man who blamed his surgeon for ongoing pain after recent back surgery, bought an AR-style rifle hours before opening fire at a Tulsa medical office on Wednesday, killing four before fatally shooting himself. Dr. Preston J. Phillips, MD, African-American doctor, and others Dr. Stephanie Hussein, Amanda Glenn, and William Lowe. All right, I'm getting ready to get to this question, but New York passes a bill that raises the age to buy and own semi-automatic rifles. New York legislators voted Thursday, and this is from the NPR, to ban anyone under age of 21 from buying or possessing a semi-automatic rifle, a major change to state firearm laws. The bill raises the age limit, is the most significant part of the package of gun control. Because as you know, this white supremacist murderer who murdered people at Tops was able to buy his own weapon at 18 years old. So did the shooter in Texas, 18 years old. But he cannot go and buy a beer here. He cannot go and get a handgun license. But he can buy an AR. To me, that's senseless, and it needs to be sensible. The age limit bill passed the Senate along party lines, 43-20, and assembly lines, 102-47. If those lines had been different, this wouldn't have gone. They would still be for sale. New York already requires people to be 21 possess a handgun. Besides raising the legal age, the bill would also require anyone buying a semi-automatic rifle to get a license. I agree. Get a license. How can you not be able to buy a handgun? I know you can't see me on the radio, but that's this big. But you can buy a semi-automatic that's going to do much more damage quicker for nothing. I was in the store the other day, and what I purchased, I had to come back the next day because I had to have a license. What somebody else who was with me, they walked right out of the store. They big gun, this big, that big. Sensible. All right, I'm turning it over to you. Should gun laws be changed? If so, how? You can ask any. Let's deal with these gun laws. What you think should be next, and Tops opened or closed. Now, I'm going to have to come back to these. I'm going over. Now you can start to, I know there's a little delay. Shuki says responsible gun ownership is not the problem. What's the problem? Come on, talk to me. Now it's time to talk to me. Good afternoon. We will. Oh, all right.
Yeah, that's us.
So
I think,
yep.
I think like what you said, and I forget which interview, the guns never walk into these places and pull the trigger themselves.
Yeah.
So, to me, regulating the gun doesn't always make sense.
Yeah.
It needs to be sensible legislations that legislates the people selling the guns to the people that are buying the guns. Because, like I said, a veteran can own an AR-15 because they've shot them. They know.
Absolutely.
They've been trained way more than Joe Blow on the street who went and bought one.
Absolutely.
So I don't want to restrict them and make them go through extra hoops when they've been professionally trained by this country.
I totally agree. I think that guns, and especially semi-automatic rifles, should not be easily accessible. When I was licensed on handgun, I had to go to classes.
Yes.
Ron Fleming, God rest his soul, was my teacher. I had to go to classes. In the military, when I was trained on the M16, of which I am an expert shooter, I had to go to classes. I had to be taught how to safely utilize that weapon. So to put that in the hands of an 18, you know what? Forget that. 18-year-old, yes, but anybody. I don't care, 50 years old. I think it is important that it be licensed. So I think New York State is moving in the right direction. Now, folks, what I want you to understand is that's one state out of our country. And the other people have different, if you go down south.
You can go an hour and a half.
You can go an hour and a half and still buy. That's why we need federal legislation. I'm trying to teach here. trying to teach, because we can celebrate the New York State. And by the way, before you celebrate, it's not over, because it will be challenged in court. They already know. So you can write a law, but then you might have some lobbyists and some group that says this is unfair. They go to court, and this has already been overturned in another state, by the way. The age already been overturned. Well, held up by the court. Held up by the court. I do not doubt that it will be held up by the court here, because somebody's going to go in with an argument, a legal argument, and that's where it gets held up. But doing nothing is worse. Doing nothing at all. I'd rather for the state to do what they're doing and then let it wash out in the courts, rather than, and because I hate this even as a legislator locally. I don't like somebody to tell me when I say, well, let's write this law. Well, it's probably going to get challenged in court. Okay. That's what courts are for. Let it get challenged.
Right.
But to do nothing at all, to me, is irresponsible. Our phones aren't working yet, are they? I don't think we tested them. Guns are tools, not toys. I agree. Kamal says it should be easier and encouraged for this community to arms themselves to defend. That's Kamal's opinion, that it should be easier and encouraged. Now, I would say this. I think that it should be across the board sensible gun legislation. And at the end of the day, the store that I went to, they sold out of shotguns, home shotguns. And I asked the question, was it majority African Americans buying them? And the salesperson said, absolutely. So there is a way to easily access a weapon for your home. This is only me. I don't want to see any community where it becomes handout, because at the end of the day, and I may be misunderstanding the statement, at the end of the day, what I think that, especially when we talk about mental health, there has to be some type of background check. And for the rifle that someone bought, who I was with the other day, everybody did go through a background check. They do it right there in the store. And you don't walk out of that store until there is one. But that red flag law is so important, so that if there is somebody that a mental health professional knows, that a professional knows, that in their opinion shouldn't be carrying a gun, there should be some type of flag, so that they have to get another opinion or whatever it is that's worked out in the law.
And I will say, because I kind of agree where Kamal is going, only because any new gun law that gets created now is going to affect us, because there's certain communities, they already got their supply. They got their stashes. They got their ARs. They got their MK. They got everything already. And then now when we go.
So do you think that there should be a loophole in the law so that African Americans can still get them?
I think that's the challenge, because now all the hurdles are going to be on us. And you got other communities.
So let me give you the opposite. So then when we're doing another homicide funeral of somebody who shouldn't have had a weapon, and it's not a mass murder, then we're going to have people saying, y'all ain't doing nothing about this. We're going to have families sitting there going, the law was there and you made an exception. I mean, I think that in any law, there's going to be somebody who is adversely affected. And that's why in the cannabis law, Crystal Peoples-Stokes put in for the sale, right? To make sure that people who were adversely affected have some type of benefit. But the question is, in real reality, because we can talk about it, but if you were the lawmaker, is there a different law because of a different zip code? Is there a period of you don't put into effect for a certain amount of time, and now something like that? But it ain't gonna be it ain't gonna be. I wouldn't agree on, okay, for the next 2 years, we're just gonna say this zip code.
Right.
You just go out and buy guns.
Absolutely.
But I do, and I'm gonna say it again. If you qualify, if you do what is correct in order to be licensed, you should be able to carry that weapon.
I agree.
And you can go and buy a shotgun if that's what you want to buy. I ain't pushing it.
Yeah, I think.
Let me say for the record, I ain't pushing it. I'm saying it's your constitutional right.
I would just, and I agree, like whether it's like you said, this law should take effect in 6 months, so everyone knows I got six
Yeah.
months to arm myself, or I did have
But
another
I think
suggestion,
AR,
but yeah,
I think the semi-automatics.
should be
I
off the
think like Canada.
off the
I
street.
don't think that there is a whole lot of room, wiggle room, on a weapon that is made for military combat.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. The suggestion was a freeze, like a temporary freeze, if you already own a certain amount registered. Whatever kind of classification
Okay,
it is. Yeah.
that's sensible, and I think it meets to what Kamal's point is, and he says proper training is a must. Veronica Ivy says the only people that can take on the NRA is the insurance company. If everyone got life insurance in the insurance industry, we have to pay money out for everyone after mass shootings. They
Would be mad enough to take on the NRA.
I think Veronica, one of the spots right there where the speed bump is in the middle of the road, if everyone got life insurance, I agree with you. And I've been pushing it for the last 10 years and still, and yes, that's a whole nother show where the blockages are for us health-wise and not having fresh fruit, not using fresh, blah, 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 blah. That's another show, but I agree with you. Shugi says, when gun licenses expire, new classes should be required to renew, and classes should be required. I don't think we could ever have enough training, enough, so I think all of these suggestions, and there is no bad suggestion if it's really with a motivation of how we keep guns out of the hands of people who should not have them.
Let me ask a question because you were military trained. Did they put you through simulations?
Depends what branch you were in and what your job was.
Could you see like a civilian simulation, like a stress test during a class?
Absolutely. You could see that. And because I was a cop in what they call law enforcement, I was law enforcement. So obviously you went through all that kind of training. How it's not perfect.
Right.
I'm sure. I'm not going to tell you my scores in the beginning, but when I first got there as a 18, 19-year-old young man, and you get a gun in your hand. Now, first of all, it's military, so a whole lot different.
Right.
You scared to breathe almost. But when you make a mistake, it's so severe, and you're military,
Right.
so it's not like you union, and the union gonna be like, you can't talk to them like that, So you had to go through that, but that's for law enforcement. A person in there, like for the personal carry, or when I was trained for personal carry, it's really talking about gun safety,
Right.
the laws
Yeah, I went through the
about where to
class, yep.
carry, all that kind of stuff. But other people didn't, so that's why I want to make sure that it's about gun safety, it's about laws, it's about what you should or should not do, where you can carry, where you cannot carry. We didn't have, and I don't know in your class, we didn't have like target practice and all that. It was in a classroom and you learned. And then it's up to you to go out and learn how to accurately shoot that weapon. There were some basics about holding your breath and all that kind of stuff, but nothing so deep that if you didn't, so you need more training. So by the way, in the planning for True Bethel, I can release this. So we have a member who is going to have a training day at the range with women who have their permits, and there's a lot of women in True Bethel who have their permits. And so I saw her at the gun store. She said, "Pastor, I just really wanted to know if this is okay." And I was like, "Absolutely." So she's going to do the first one, and then we're going to have one for males. And the reason, she wanted to, I think for women, she didn't want the women to be around the males as they're going through the training, and I agree. And I want, so there will be a day, and so we believe we found the range that we can rent, just like a skating rink. So we're going to rent the range and have food and have training, extra training, so that it's one thing to just get a gun. It's another thing to be able to utilize it effectively. And so we're gonna have a training. They'll have training. You'll be able to go on the range and shoot. So we're gonna start out with the women of True Bethel and guests if there's others.
And you just said something that's why I said like the simulation, because like you said, it's one thing to own it,
Yes, yes.
but when you got to be ready to pull it out and use, and like you said, it's to neutralize a target.
Yes, yes.
It's not for a scare.
Yeah, and this is I wish we had more ranges in our community where people could go out, because I have certain weapons that if I don't shoot them for years, you will forget.
Yeah.
How that weapon operates. And so right now, with a very limited amount of ranges around here, you have people who have legal weapons but don't have a place to really go out. And there's a few, but there's not as many that I think are needed. I wish I had me an empty building. We have gun, and there is a black gun, there is a black gun club. But when you look on their website, since the pandemic, they haven't been operating.
Right.
But I think that because it is a constitutional right, I think that, hey, I hope they get back up and started, and that they continue to service people with safety training. Renato Graham says, I got to put on my glasses. When you see shootout law enforcement and civilians, there are so many rounds shot that are not hitting target. Yeah, and that's about, one of those things, Renato, is about that movement, because everybody's moving in some of the videos that I've seen. And then others are just because people are just taking their gun and shooting them in any direction. When you're in a high stress, and one of the things they teach you in the military is shooting in a high stress environment. So they have you run where your heart is pumping, you hit the ground, and now you got to hit that target while because those of you who shoot, you know that you really need to try to hold your breath so that your body isn't going up and down while you holding that gun or weapon. So at the end of the day, what happens if somebody breaks in the house and now you're running and you're trying to shoot? You don't want to shoot your kids. You don't want to have what they call friendly fire. I don't know how we got into all this. So probably next week I'm going to talk about tops. Okay, nope, we got somebody brought it up. Tops should come back better than before with community ownership and investment. So I was going to reserve my comment, but what I have heard is from both sides of the community. One young lady who was here for one of the funerals, and she said to me very sincerely and kind, and she was like, Pastor, I don't think that it should ever open up because I can never go in. And then I've had seniors and other people in the community say, we shouldn't let a murderer, white supremacist murderer, come into our town and start closing down stuff.
Right.
Because and then it may be copycat stuff. And we just want a better tops. We want a better experience. Now, from all of what I see going on out there, there's a lot of work going on inside. I don't think when you walk in Tops, you will see the same experience.
No, and I think the regional president said that they're completely remodel of the inside and some remodeling on the outside. So it's not going to look the same.
Yeah, and that's, I think it is important to everybody, because I wouldn't want to walk in. The families wouldn't want to walk in. But I know that there were people who don't even live in the community saying, shut it down. But we want to. But
that's easy.
It's easy for you to say if you haven't lived in a food desert. Now, I'll say that. And I'll say this also. Some of the conversations I've been having, at least one that may be promising, that there are people willing to, that there's at least a different model willing to come into the area. But I want you all, and I want to go to or some other supermarket chain connection. I'm going to come back to that. Come on. I want to talk about re-envisioning. What does the Netta say on there?
They said, she said they have connected. There's a permit class this Sunday at 3 p.m. at 11 East Utica for $45.
So I ain't trying to act like True Bethel trying to take the lead on getting your license, but I will say this.
Protect yourself.
I am saying it is your right. Now, she's talking about a permit class. I don't know if it is that permit class. That might be from the gun club. So, Danetta, you put it up here. So now people, Pastor McKinnon, are asking, is it full? We got to have more detail than that. We need some detail if you want to run up and give it. It was a guy on the news that worked there, and he said he can't wait to get back to work. Yeah, Veronica, I talked directly to the guy who move people into the cooler at one of the services. And he said to me, I said, are you going to go back? And he looked at me and said, absolutely. He said, I'm absolutely going back. So you unless you're part of the family of victims, unless you're a part of TOPS family community, just chill for a minute and let that community be able to make decisions. We constantly have people who come from other places to tell us what we need in our community. But this is my thought. You know, we do. I got it. We should and we do need another store. But I've been to Toronto. I've been to New York City, in communities that have re-envisioned themselves. And instead of, because let's be honest, we're glad TOPS is there, but the profits of TOPS don't stay in our community. And this is I want to be clear, this is not disparaging TOPS. I'm talking about this vision. It's not the corporate model, right? So we put another one in those. What happens if you reimagine Jefferson, Fillmore, and it becomes like Toronto? And I don't mean downtown. I'm talking about like the neighborhoods of Toronto, that the storefronts are in the bottom. Services.
Yep.
And up top are apartments.
The way this New York City used to be.
The way New York City used to be, and in some areas still is.
Yep.
Where you have local people who are walking to their businesses.
Yep.
The flowers shop on Fillmore was the flowers that were provided at the memorial when the president came. Black owned. What happens if down Jefferson, as we're doing all these building projects, it is required that there is retail space if there's government intervention. Retail space, at least on the whole first floor, so that people can open up businesses, so that somebody who lives on Landon who has a I don't know, fresh fruits and vegetables, so that now you've got all of these services, so that now the area and the money, the profit
Stays.
it goes back to our barbershops, goes back to our hairdressers, goes back to boom, boom, boom. I'll say this. I remember when Mayor Brown, and there was some money that came in from the state for storefront revitalization. One of his aides went to a barbershop and encouraged them to apply. And it was like a big negative deal. I want people to know that sometimes it's hard doing this work in government, because it was a big negative deal, as if he shouldn't have gone to a barbershop for them to revitalize their storefront. You have to revitalize the storefronts. You got to revitalize. You can't just say, let's open up a grocery store, all that money. What happens if you take a Alex and the food co-op, and I believe he's on his way to opening right now. I believe he's on his way. But what happens if he has the place in the Fruit Belt and he has another place, so that he has multiple chains, and you're able, when you think of fresh fruits and vegetables, you're like, I'm going to Alex's place because he got the best rutabagas.
Right.
He got the best yams. He got the best this. And then next door is the butcher. And I could just go on. And now you have that Hurdle or Elmwood experience that we've been saying, why does Jefferson and Fillmore not look like that? But then when we have an opportunity, it's just big box.
Yep. It's it's the call walkable communities, and that's, I think, like you said, that's what we've been asking for. When I was working with the medical campus and took a trip to Columbus, Ohio, and like you said, there's things that's literally mental.
Yeah.
So what they did in one of the neighborhoods that eventually got gentrified, and like you always say, gentrification is not a bad word.
It's the results.
It's the results. So they took kind of this dilapidated neighborhood.
Yeah.
And they literally, and I think Bailey's did it a couple years ago. They just took the old, like, abandoned windows and just painted the new windows, painted the facades.
Yeah.
So it's still like active buildings, and investment went up 1,000% in 2 years.
Well, look what's happening in the corridor right now. If you go down by the corridor, by the archways, you're going to see that old building, that little old house that we were able to save. And it is being now constructed to house the radio station we are on right now. With Tim Hortons across the street, I would like to. Anyway, I digress. But apartments, Colored Musicians Club, all that kind of stuff, things will be walkable. Now, as you put new apartments there, people are able to walk in their community to the services. We have to re-envision. I am a proponent of another grocery store in our area. We'll always want more.
Absolutely.
But I also, if we're talking about somebody just put, it would be nice if Tops open and reinvested in the community. What would happen if Tops made a compact, or not even Tops, somebody else and others and Tops, to say, for this amount of period, we're going to put all this money into a fund, right? So everybody puts in one fund, and we're able to invest in our community, and you have to live in the community in some sort of way, or either have some type of connection, stakeholder because if we can give tax breaks for saving, and I'll end with this, we got hella tax breaks people get hella tax breaks for saving old buildings. What about having the laws to have tax breaks for saving neighborhoods, opening businesses, making it easier, not only to survive, but to thrive? I want to reimagine it. And I want to see that the profits stay in our community, at least some of them, and that we don't just get the jobs, but we get the chance to have the wealth and the addition into our communities with our stamp on it. Think about it. Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes, 3 locations to service you, 347 Peckham, 2528 Bailey, 1275 Sycamore. In your hour of need, Brian K. Lewis Funeral Home. Brian K. Lewis Funeral Home. Hobson's, the Doctor of Dry Cleaner, 874 East Delavan. Go on over there. I do. You're going to see something from me over there. Thank you to Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes and to Hobson's Dry Cleaner. Until next week, power to the people.